Welcome to the Fibromyalgia Podcast. I'm Tami, fibromyalgia coach, author, and founder of the International Fibromyalgia Coaching Institute. The goal of this podcast is to empower you with access to the dream team of experts and coaches I've discovered are key to living the fibro life you love. From the comfort of your own home, and maybe even your pajamas, I'll help you take back control of your life and health. To help out with FibroFog, I always include full show notes and additional resources at fibromyalgiapodcast.com. You're listening to the Fibromyalgia Podcast with Tami, episode 39. Welcome to the Fibromyalgia Podcast. I'm your coach, Tami. In today's episode, I'm going to be interviewing Dr. Shelia Whiteman about how you can stop your bladder leaks. Before we get into that, though, I do have today's listener shout out and a few announcements for you. Our listener shout out for this week comes from Mary in Ontario, Canada. She says, I recently found your podcast and have been listening to it every morning, catching up on the old episodes. Having hit rock bottom in the summer of 2017 after my second pregnancy, I would have loved to have a resource like this. My husband did buy me Dr. Lipton's book, which was super helpful to get me started on my healing journey. She says, keep it up. I've gotten it mostly under control and even stopped my last prescription medication, but do have to stick to quite a tight routine to stay feeling well. I do look forward to learning more and hopefully becoming a little bit more flexible in my lifestyle. Thanks for all you do. Thank you so much, Mary. And yes, the longer you go with feeling good, the easier it will become. As you learn, as your body gets more comfortable, just time for healing, eventually you are going to be able to be a little bit more flexible. It always surprises me. Just when I think I'm doing amazing, something will happen that will just take it up just one more notch. And it really is. It is amazing. But do, be patient with yourself. Don't try to push yourself hard, and just know that it will come in its own time. So thanks again, Mary, and I'm so glad you're listening. I also wanted to let you know there is a documentary that just came out in the last few weeks as I've been recording this, probably about a month ago by the time you hear this, which is titled Pain Warriors. This film is a story of several different patients who are living with chronic pain. One of the patients highlighted in this story is a client of mine, Sherry Little. She lost her life to chronic pain about 5 years ago. In fact, in a few weeks, it's going to be the 5th anniversary of her death. And so it's really great timing that the documentary came out now. As part of making this film, I was interviewed as part of Sherry's story. I don't think that part made it into the film, but I was involved with some of the behind the scenes, and I can tell you this is a fantastic film that really was made with people who understand, who live with chronic pain and really have a heart for sharing these hard stories. So this potentially is something you can share with your friends, watch with your family, to maybe have them understand a little bit more what it is that you deal with every day. Pain Warriors is available on Amazon and on iTunes. If you want to grab the links for those, just go to fibromyalgiapodcast.com/39 for today's episode, and we will have the links where you can watch Pain Warriors for yourself. Now, upcoming episodes, I want to make sure and share those with you. Our next episode is going to be episode 40, which is our Ask the Coach. And I'm not sharing what I'm going to talk about on that episode just yet, because there are a few things in the works, but I hope to have a super exciting announcement for you on that episode. If I can't get things in place like they need to be, then I will pick one of our Ask the Coach questions that has come in and we'll do an Ask the Coach episode. But hopefully I'll have some super exciting news for you for our next episode on episode 40. In future episodes, I also have invited Dr. Robin Pfaff to come back and talk some more with us about post-traumatic growth. Especially right now with everything that's happening in the world, there are so many people who are experiencing trauma or having old traumas re-triggered. And so this is a great opportunity right now to be talking about the growth that can happen after these kinds of traumas, which is what post-traumatic growth refers to. Most of us know about post-traumatic stress, PTSD, right? Post-traumatic stress disorder. But there is a group of people who go through something hard and come out the other side better for it. And I think for many of us with fibromyalgia, this is where we can fit in. So I hope that you will join us when Dr. Robin Pfaff comes back to talk more about that. I will let you know the exact episode as we get a little bit closer. And as always, if you guys have questions you want to ask, if there are topics you want me to cover, just go to fibromyalgiapodcast.com, look for Ask the Coach in the menu, and just shoot me a message and let me know the questions that you have, the topics that you want to hear from or about, or if you have people you would like me to interview. I would love to hear from you so that this podcast episode can meet you where you're at. All right, are you ready to meet this week's guest? So before I introduce you to Dr. Whiteman, I do have to give a little bit of a medical disclaimer. As always, this podcast is not meant to be medical advice. We are trying to educate you, to give you hope, to inform you of some things that maybe you didn't even know were available. And in today's episode, in specific, I really want to educate you on pelvic floor health, specifically urinary incontinence, and how much of that is fibromyalgia, how much of that is getting older, and how much of that is fixable. So you're going to hear a lot of things in this episode, and I just highly recommend that you speak with your doctor about it or schedule a consultation with Dr. Whiteman, talk to her about it. This isn't medical advice, even though she's a doctor. You do need to have a consultation with her specifically so that you can find out exactly what it is that you need to do. Dr. Shelia Whiteman is a doctor of physical therapy. I didn't even know there was a thing. I hate to say, but I didn't know. DPT, Doctor of Physical Therapy. She received her Bachelor of Science from Ithaca College and her doctorate in physical therapy from Boston University. She is the author of To Pee or Not to Pee, the guide for reducing and eliminating urinary incontinence. She's a physical therapist specializing in pelvic health, lymphedema, and oncology. She is an advocate for health and well-being, and she's done lots of different presentations and fitness programs and volunteer activities in her community. In her leisure time, she can be found teaching cycling and Pilates classes. I met Dr. Whiteman in a group of coaches and authors that I mentor. And when I heard her particular topic, the subject for her book, I invited her to come and talk to my students and coaches. So my fibromyalgia coaches in training, my graduates, because so many people with fibromyalgia have digestive issues, have incontinence issues, have abdominal pain. Like there's just a lot of stuff going on there for a lot of us. Things like waking up in the middle of the night because you have to pee, like all of that kind of stuff. And I knew that in order to best serve our clients, we need to be better educated. So I invited her to come teach a class on pelvic floor health. By the time the class was over, I thought, holy crap, like all these things she's talking about, like I have those problems, and realized that all the things that I had thought were normal, and you can't see me, but I'm doing air quotes here, quote unquote normal, or just part of fibromyalgia, or just part of getting older, that actually wasn't true. That these were actually fixable things that we could deal with. So some of you may be wondering, what the heck was I dealing with? I'm going to share a few of them with you now. And of course, when we get into the interview, you'll hear more about how I was able to work with Dr. Whiteman and get these things corrected. But some of the things that I experienced were things like waking up first thing in the morning. I didn't wake up during the night, but when I would wake up first thing in the morning, I would be thinking, oh my gosh, I hope I make it to the bathroom on time. I hope I don't wet the bed. So that was one. Having a little bit of leakage when I cough or I sneeze or laugh really hard. Feeling like I needed to go to the bathroom before I left the house, or go to the bathroom before I got on a coaching call with one of my clients. And you might think, that's weird. Why is that a problem? And when you hear the interview, we'll talk more about that. But I was actually teaching my body that I needed to go to the bathroom more often than I really did. Also, some of our discussion about constipation and how it relates to urinary incontinence. Constipation is something I've dealt with like my whole life. And I had no idea that how connected those things could be. So there was just a whole bunch of stuff that as she was talking about all of this, one of the big wake-up calls for me was if you're dealing with a lot of constipation, then it can potentially lead to prolapses. We'll talk about that in the interview, so you'll get to hear more about that. And I thought, because I knew her especially, I felt totally comfortable having a conversation with her. So I scheduled a consultation and we talked about it. She's like, yep, you're right. These things that you're dealing with, this is not normal. This is not the way that it should be. And it's easy to fix. So I signed up for I think it was like 8 or 9 week program. And I was amazed. Just a few weeks in, like so many of my problems totally went away. Oh, here's another one that I would experience. I'd go to the bathroom, I'd get up, I would, leave the bathroom, start doing things and feel like, oh my gosh, I have to go to the bathroom again. Like that one, my brain knew that wasn't right. But which is something we didn't actually talk about in the interview, but that's all part of the work that I did with Dr. Whiteman and getting some of this straightened out. So with that lead in, maybe you recognize yourself in some of those scenarios. If so, pay close attention to the interview. My interview with Dr. Whiteman, we start off with some education, talking about what normal is not, what's fibromyalgia, what's aging, what's not. And then towards the end, we talk about how to go about taking your next steps. I do highly, highly recommend scheduling a consultation with Dr. Whiteman. She really knows her stuff. And I kid you not, you guys, like the annoyances that I had in my case were fixed in just a couple of weeks with super simple things. So don't feel like you have to live with this stuff. Of course, you can also find a physical therapist in your area that is able to help you with this too. Dr. Whiteman talks about specific questions you can ask and things you can do to make sure that you get the right physical therapist who can actually help you with this. So there's guidelines for you in there too. So stay tuned. Listen to my interview with Dr. Whiteman. It's a fantastic interview, and I can't wait to see you guys again in a couple of weeks where we will do our next Ask the Coach. Enjoy. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I am so excited to talk to you about this subject. I know it's something a lot of my clients deal with. So thank you so much for being here.
Oh, I am happy to be here. Believe me, believe me.
So a lot of the things that I hear from clients as I'm doing my coaching and my own experience, which I shared in the introduction, is that we have these little things that happen. Maybe leaking a little bit when you cough or you laugh or whatever it is, and we think that that's just part of getting older. I've had a lot of people talk about, oh, that's just part of fibromyalgia. And I know you well enough to know that you have different thoughts on that. So why don't you share a little bit about that and just kind of educate us a little bit on what normal actually is, because I think a lot of us don't really realize.
Yeah, so I'll start off first with your comment about fibromyalgia. So, what I have found actually in treating, and I've been treating for several years as a physical therapist, and I have had fibromyalgia people or clients. So, a lot of things that don't fit into a box that you may feel go into this is because you have fibromyalgia category. And it doesn't necessarily mean that that is the case. It's very convenient for physicians, and I'm not putting all physicians in the same box. But if you have fibromyalgia, a lot of physicians can go in a box like that because there are a lot of things that go on with your body. The condition is systemic. So there are a lot of different things that can happen that you might feel that are not normal. And then when you go to the doctor's comment is, well, you have fibromyalgia. I don't know why I can't say that today. And you should expect this. So putting that into context first, now I want to talk a little bit about leakage because Tami did kind of mention that. And I'll start out that it's not even fibromyalgia people who think that some leakage is normal. It is everyone. So that is something that you can go in the category with everybody else because it's across the board.
Yay, we're like everybody else.
You are like everybody else. And please don't let people keep telling you that you are so different because that is not the case. It's just that it is a condition that has not been understood as well as others, because when it first started, nobody really knew what this was. Mm-hmm. And it's still really being studied. But I digress. However, so because I can go on and on about fibromyalgia too, but we're going to talk though about leakage. And it is not normal to have leakage as you age. So I'll just even start there because that is what so many people feel is the norm. And I have to even go back to say leakage, even if you have a couple of drops, we kind of discard that thinking that is not leakage, but it actually is. So I want you to really remember that too. So when you're doing that cough, sneeze, exercise, and a couple of drops come out, that is considered leakage that may or may not progress. Usually it does progress to more and more and more as time goes on, but for some people it doesn't. I don't want to make that generalization for everybody because it's not everybody. I also want you to know that if you have to go to the bathroom several times during a few hours, that also is not normal. Your bladder is not designed to have to empty every hour. It's designed so that you'll be able to carry on your life and do what you have to do while your kidneys are filtering and putting the liquids and the waste into your bladder to come out. But it's not that as soon as you get a few drops, it is time for it to go. So I think a lot of it is understanding how your body is supposed to work. Once you understand how your body is supposed to work, then you can actually determine if it's doing what it's supposed to do. A lot of people don't realize they accept these patterns, especially if they occur over the years, because usually it just not, today I'm fine, tomorrow I'm going to the bathroom every hour. That's not the way it goes. It's kind of insidious, just like most diseases are. And then when you get to the point where you're like, what happened? Uh, then you either know that this wasn't normal, but it wasn't normal for a long time. It's just, you just accepted it.
Right. And I did share in the introduction that this is actually one of the things you and I worked on, was this question of frequency. And it was so fascinating to me working with you and realizing how much I had taught my body, because like I'm doing coaching calls all day, right? So I had that thought of, oh, I better go to the bathroom before I hop on the phone. And then next thing I know, I have to go to the bathroom once an hour before I hop on a coaching call. It's like, wait a minute.
Yeah, because we talked a lot about the brain bladder connection and how to change that, because you actually had made your brain think that, okay, well, I'm getting ready to get on a coaching call. I have to go to the bathroom, and Tami, I'm telling you, if you don't go to the bathroom, this is your brain talking to you. If you don't go to the bathroom, you're going to leak, and you're going to be uncomfortable. And that's kind of what your bladder learned.
Right, exactly.
So every time it was time, you're like, oh, well, I better go to the bathroom because I don't want to be uncomfortable during my call. Makes sense. Makes sense. But that's what you trained your body to do.
It's
And
the
we broke
same
that out.
thing. It's the same thing as walking out the door, right? I mean, how many of us had moms, and my mom is probably listening, who were like, did you go to the bathroom before we leave? Right. And sometimes it's like, okay, we're driving, 3 hours or something. Sure, yeah, let's go to the bathroom before we go. But to do that before you walk out the door for a quick trip to the grocery store that might be half an hour or an hour, you know what I mean? There's just so much that we've trained our bodies on how to respond to different situations, right?
That is absolutely correct. And I think once you're aware of what is, and I don't like saying the norm, but what is the usual way that your body works, because the norm is different for a lot of people. But I just kind of say that. But once you're aware of how your body is supposed to work, then you can figure out, okay, well, I just went to the bathroom at 1. Because I'm going to the bathroom at 1:30 does not mean I should go to the bathroom before I leave. You really have to go through and it becomes second nature, actually, though, once you go, because you'll sit and you'll think, I just went. Let me just go to the store. I don't have to go. But sometimes it really takes coaching. It takes someone to give you the confidence and the knowledge that you can actually do that. Because other than that, it's scary, because we all, me included, because everybody has times where they ebb and flow with maybe a couple of drops coming out. And for me, a couple of drops coughs, I'm like, what happened? So I know I immediately have to take care of it. But other people might not know that. So, everybody's fear, every woman's fear, probably every man's fear is having to do diapers or having to have a lot of leakage. I mean, really. So that always stays in the back of everybody's mind. And it doesn't really have to, once you get a handle on it and know what to do.
And didn't I just see somebody in a conversation that we were both on say something about the number one reason that seniors go into care facilities is incontinence?
Yes, because it's because there's 2 reasons for that. Incontinence, because the family cannot manage having to change them and having to take care of that and clean up whatever, because it can be difficult. That's number one. Number 2 is that if you're mobile and you have to run to the bathroom and you fall,
Right.
yeah, that's actually one of the bigger causes, because as you may or may not know, as you get older, should you break your hip, then your mortality, the mortality rate is higher for the next 2 years. So at all costs, you want to avoid that. So yeah, oh yeah, and good catch. I did see that, and that is very true. Very true. Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about, because this is another one I hear from clients all the time, is waking up at night and going to the bathroom, needing to go to the bathroom. And I'll share a little fibro expertise, and then you can share from the other side. With fibromyalgia, our sleep just isn't good. And so one of the questions I am always asking my clients is, do you wake up first and then realize you have to go to the bathroom and then you have to get up? Or are you waking up because, oh my gosh, I'm going to wet the bed? Right. And the first is a little bit more fibro brain. You're not sleeping very well. You wake up and then your brain is like, oh, my bladder's feeling kind of full, so make sure, those of you who are listening, those are some questions you can ask yourself to kind of figure out, is this just a sleep problem where I need to make sure I'm getting better sleep and then I won't wake up and it won't be an issue? Or is this a bladder issue?
Right. And if it's I believe that was number 2, where you're asleep and you begin to wake up and you say, I have to go to the bathroom. If I don't go to the bathroom, then I'm not going to make it. I'm going to wet the bed. That, if that occurs more than once per night, that is unusual also. Unless you have an issue, you might have a medical issue, not fibromyalgia, because just remember, we preface the first conversation, part of this conversation is we're not blaming everything on fibro.
That's right.
So so let's just go back to that first. And then secondly, if you have to get up a few times, you're going to, number one, really have disrupted sleep. And then it's harder to function during the day. Fibromyalgia clients, and actually the general public, you need your sleep because you need it to function. You need to be able to have your thought processes clear and be able to focus, number one. We won't even get into the body health benefits. So you do need to get your sleep. That is another one of those brain bladder connection type things that we can extend. I think we might have worked on that a little bit, even yours, like right before bed or something like that, but we worked on that a little bit. Yeah. So that is something too that can be more normalized with coaching with assistance. The beauty of this program, the program that I do, is that you're coming and saying one thing to me, I have some leakage when I X, and then we talk, and then we're looking at the information that we got, and then we're both concluding, well, there's a couple more things going on here that we could work on. So it's not just X, it's X, Y, and maybe Z. And we can fix then they're all interrelated though. So it's not like it's something off to the side, they're all interrelated. So it's something that we can fix and fix each one of those while we're working over our 8-week period.
Right. And in my case, one of the things you had me do, and I think you do this with everybody, was doing a diary, when I'm going to the bathroom, how much I'm drinking, what am I drinking? And one of the super obvious things on the diary was that I was drinking almost all of my water, almost all of my liquid in the few hours before bed. So of course, I was having trouble getting through the night, right?
Exactly. But I don't know if that's something that you would have seen.
I would, no way. No way.
Right. I don't know if you would have seen that, because when I first looked, I said, Tami, why are you drinking all of this water right here? You're like, what are you talking about?
I know. It was I don't know, 48 ounces in the few hours before bed. And our bladders only hold how much?
16.
Right? So, hello.
Yeah. So you weren't going to last a night. And if you did last a night because you were so tired or whatever, even if you did last a night, it would be difficult to get through the morning without either having to run to the bathroom, leaking a little bit, getting to the bathroom. There's always consequences to doing something outside of the norm of even what your body should accept.
Right.
Because
right.
if it takes 16 ounces, okay, you're going to drink triple that and then have a restful sleep and a restful morning.
The super interesting thing about this for those of you listening with fibromyalgia. So I do really good with my sleep. Like I don't wake up in the middle of the night. So what was happening to me is I would like wake up in the morning and be running to the bathroom hoping I made it, right? But part of the reason that happens is because there's a lot of supplements I take to make sure that I sleep. That's just part of what I do for fibromyalgia. Well, part of what was happening was I was taking all of those supplements before I got in bed, and then of course drinking all the water that it takes to take them, right? So part of what we talked about was, could I take those earlier? Could I drink that water earlier? I ended up switching when I took my supplements, take them, I don't know, it's about 3 hours earlier than I used to. Oh my gosh, you guys, I'm going to bed earlier. I'm waking up earlier. I actually don't sleep as long because things are wearing off. So I'm taking them 3 hours before I go to bed. So I take them at like 8 or 9, go to bed around midnight. So it's actually changed a lot of things for the better, all because I was thinking, this isn't very fun having to run to the bathroom in the morning.
Right, right, right. And that whole conversation that you just had is a good example of how a small change can change, not only because we're looking at just leakage, bladder issues, etc., but look at what else it changed in your life.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah. Like
right.
I'm probably feeling the same on about an hour less sleep because of taking things like my magnesium and melatonin and stuff like that earlier. By the time it wears off, like it's just so fascinating to me, you know, as a coach for fibromyalgia, who like, this is the stuff that I do. Those are things that I hadn't put together just because of whatever reason.
Right, and that might not, but you're you do know fibromyalgia. Yes, you do. You do know that. But there's also, bladder habits. Like, you can know them in general, but, don't forget, I've been doing bladder. That's been years of doing the same thing, seeing different people. So you have different perspectives too on what goes on and what works and what may not. And what works for one might not necessarily work for another person. So yeah, I mean, so that's quite understandable. And we are our worst enemy, patient, whatever. Because even if we know something, it doesn't apply to us.
Right, exactly. It's so hard to see your own things and the accountability of doing stuff, you know. I probably wouldn't have figured out, one of the reasons I wouldn't have figured out moving my supplements earlier so I didn't have to drink so much water at bedtime and all of that was because I had to report back to you. So I had to figure out a way to make this work.
That is exactly right. So on our one-on-one, that's right. Every time, Tami, did you do this? Tell me about your week. And I have to give to you, were quite honest. You're like, well, this week, I did great. Or this week, I really tried. And it's okay because you really tried. And I was very grateful for that. But I think if you don't have someone every week saying to you, did you follow up on this? Did you complete this? Because you don't really want to look and talk to me and say, no, every week, no, I didn't do that. No, I didn't do that. That you don't want to, yeah, yeah.
And
So
then
the accountability part is
troubleshooting,
great.
yeah, and troubleshooting on the things that weren't working. I know there were a few like tweaks we had to make along the way. And also you being my my pelvic floor trainer. Do this number of reps of this number of thing. Okay, now you're stronger, you're ready for more. That's that knowledge that you have. I mean, I couldn't have done that on my own and not done it well and safely and effectively.
Yeah, because it was a progression also. So you did not have all the information thrown at you at one time to say, okay, well, you have to do this. No, it was like, accomplish this, and then we're going to move here. Accomplish this, and then we're going to move here. Some of them might have meshed together because we were working on several things at a time, but nothing, I hope, was overwhelming so that you felt, this girl is crazy. I cannot do all of this, because it's a PACE program.
Yeah, it felt very doable. And I keep telling everybody, like I was so surprised at how small the changes were I had to make and how little extra I had to add to my life to fix something that felt like an annoyance I was going to have to live with for the rest of my life.
Right. And I do remember you were very excited. I you after you really were after the second week, you were like, I cannot wait to tell you. I just cannot wait to tell you what happened. And it was really nice to see because you were compliant, so whatever, we said, okay, well, try this, try that, you did it. But then you also could see the benefit. So you were open to seeing the benefit, because some people have the benefit and they just don't see it. I have to pull it out of you. Well, did you leak in the morning? Well, no, but I'm not getting better. Yeah, you are getting better. You really are. So that was a lot of fun. It was fun to work with you. It really was. It was.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So another thing that a lot of people talk about a lot that I would love to have you share, because this was part of our work too, is Kegels.
Yeah. So, and that was not the main focus, but that was one of the first focuses on our work. Once we both worked together to figure out what was going on and what was needed. The problem with Kegels are, and they're pelvic floor muscle contractions. That's exactly what they are, pelvic floor muscle contractions. What people don't understand, well, number one is, what is a pelvic floor? Like, what is it? Where is it? There were, it's like, there's muscles there. Yes, there are muscles. There are layers of muscles. And the important thing to remember in doing a Kegel is that you need to activate all three layers in order to be effective. And you have to be able to do the Kegel so that it's an isolated movement. And so I'll give you an example. A lot of times, and this is so before I did coaching, I was in the clinic. And in the clinic, we measure Kegels using our fingers so we can actually feel the muscles. So a glove finger. So what I found is, and this is probably over a 10-year span, is that women who thought they were doing Kegels were not doing them correctly. So they were either substituting, and we talked about this. You can substitute your breath. So you can hold and pull in your breath, and you will really feel like you're doing a Kegel. If you're listening to this, you can even do that now. So if you could do a quick pulling of your breath, you're going to feel a tightening actually of your pelvic floor and your lower abdominals. But that's not a Kegel. It'll feel like you're doing something, which you are, because you're using all the muscles to help pull up. Also, and I'll just talk about a little bit of the substitutes and the things, but even if you do a strong contraction of your rectal sphincter, you're going to feel like you're squeezing your vaginal area. You're going to feel like that because there's overflow of the muscles, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're doing a good Kegel. Those are some of the ways that, and some of the confusion that comes in when women think that they're doing an effective Kegel and they are not. There is an art to doing a great Kegel. There is an art. So once you get the art of doing a great Kegel, you are well on your way, though, to fixing so many things that go on.
And I know we also worked on Kegels of different lengths, like holding them for different amounts of time.
We did.
You want to talk about that just a little bit? Like what the different...
Yeah. See, so there are anatomy lessons that go along with this coaching.
I learned so much.
Yeah, there are lessons that go with this, because I really feel that if you understand your body and understand, even if you forget the basics, but you understand your body, you will still be able to control it. So there, we all have faster twitch, slower twitch fibers, and that is throughout your body for everything. So you can run fast, use faster fibers. You can walk using slow twitch fibers. Okay, so you have fibers that give you bursts of energy. your cough, sneeze, you need a quick contraction for that. You have to really do a fast contraction to close the sphincter so that you don't lose any liquid. Okay, so those are quick contractions. And there is a specified number that I have everybody do, depending on what we discuss is going on. We also do work with our endurance fibers. You have to be able to hold the organs. That's our anatomy that we learn. But the organs that are there, they have to be able to stay in place. You have to keep that muscle strong enough to keep everything where it's supposed to be. And so there are support muscles, just like the muscles in your back that are always active, that keep you upright. There are muscles in your pelvic floor that always are active, that keep everything supported. So we work on the different types of muscle fibers. So that's why I had you do different lengths of time in order to hit each one. And we did some more than others because of what your diabladder told us. So depending on what it tells us, well, in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, this will be of more benefit than X. So it all is, it's personalized as to what you say and what we see. But yeah, you do have to do more than just arbitrarily squeezing and think that that's going to be effective. It's not. And if you remember, we also did relaxation of the pelvic floor.
Yes. Yes. I know we talked about like when you need to go to the bathroom and maybe it's hard to let go. Or we didn't talk about this, but I imagine that's also comes into play with pain during intercourse and some of that kind of stuff too, right?
Right. Yeah. We didn't get into any of that, but yes, but you also need to, what we got into was you need to do a contraction on a muscle that's not already tight.
Yes. This is very true with fibromyalgia because we are already in a fight or flight. Sometimes muscles are already tense. So for us, learning how to relax is very important.
Right. Yeah. And that was one of the first lessons actually that we did. I know it was a while, so you might not even remember the sequence.
I did totally forget, but yeah, you're right. That was the first thing we did was the relaxation.
Yes, we did. Yes, because I have to make sure, and so do you, we have to make sure that you know how to relax your pelvic floor and that you can literally feel that. Because if you can't understand what that is, that has to be worked on first before then we work on contractions. You'll have an ineffective contraction. And in ineffective contractions, you'll just really spend a lot of time doing something that won't be beneficial in the long run.
Right, right. I know that for a lot of people, a lot of my clients, there's also some prolapse issues. I've had several clients who have had slings, kind of helping those organs stay where they need to stay, and that's actually part of what you taught me in your class too.
Yeah, I did. I think I'm going to put that in my next book. Prolapses are, a lot of women do have issues with prolapse and really don't know what it means, they really don't even know what it means though, and where they are. And, the doctor will tell you have an X prolapse, but then you don't really know what that looks like. But so I talked about that third layer though. So that third layer is what helps to support organs that are trying to prolapse. And I think when I was talking, I've talked before about this, prolapses, a lot of women, number one, I'll say this, a lot of women already have some prolapse if you've had children. So if you've had a lot of children, your chance of prolapse, natural birth, say that, your chance of prolapse becomes higher. And not to say that if you did not have a natural birth, that doesn't happen, because babies are heavy. So they still do push down, but then they're heavy and then we still have to push them out. So even pushing them out, it does cause some trauma. It actually, it is traumatic. You have to heal for six weeks, before anything down there. So, Prolapse, though, your bladder, your uterus, and your rectum are really closely related in that space. And any one of those can be prolapse, meaning it can be displaced, is what that means. The bladder falls into the vagina. The rectum actually falls into the vagina, and then the uterus can come down because the uterus, there's an opening, come through the vagina. So a lot of times physicians will fix this, especially if women are having symptoms of a lot of bladder leaks. Because if your bladder falls down, then, and this will be in your anatomy, the tube the tubes that have the urine flow from the kidney, bladder, and then out, they are not going to be in that straight line because they're going to be displaced. I know that's a lot of explanation. I don't know if you wanted that much explanation from that one question.
No, that's good, because a lot of people I don't think really even realize that there are things you can do now to prevent that happening to you later.
Yeah, so if you have a strong pelvic floor, that actually does help with supporting all your organs. If you have prolapses are in stages, so it's stage 1, 2, 4. Sometimes they'll put in 5 because that's how they do, but it's 1 to 4. So if you're a stage 1 or 2, a lot of times we can strengthen your pelvic floor so that you won't have any issues. Like, we can really start to change the way it feels down there. The thing that you have to remember with pelvic floor exercises, and this is for prolapse, this is for bladder leaks, this is for whatever, is that once you get to where you need to be, you can't stop. You have to always have a maintenance type program. You don't have to be as enthusiastic as you were, during the whether you're going to a therapy clinic, whether you're getting coaching for this, whatever, the time that you're working with your coach or therapist is the time that you're doing the most intense work. And then afterwards, you're still doing intense work, but we all are realistic and we know it slacks off a little bit. But let's look 6 months out or even a year out. There are things that you should still be doing. So once you learn how to do a pelvic floor contraction, I am not saying that every day you need to be doing one, but I am saying a couple times a week, yes, you should. Once you become stronger, it is easy, and we've talked about this, Tami, is to do your contractions during different times a day. So to fit them into your life. So even at that light, everybody's town has a light that you're sitting there, you're like, this is the longest light ever. When you get to that longest light ever, that's when you say, okay, well, let me just do some 5-second, 2-second contractions, whatever. And you will have done probably 2 sets because they don't take a long time to do. But you would have done your 2 sets. It's like, yes, I've done them. If you are the person in the family that washes the dishes, so you got to be politically correct with that. If you're the person that washes the dishes, because it may not be you, it might be, your significant other or whatever. But while you're standing there, you can do some Kegels, because you want to do Kegels in every position that you normally would be in. Every time you cough or sneeze, you are not going to be laying in your bed waiting for, so you can do a pelvic floor contraction while you're laying back so you can catch this urine coming out. So mostly you're going to be sitting or you're going to be standing. So you want to make sure that you can do a Kegel in all of these positions and feel comfortable doing it and feel like you are actually feeling a contraction and a lift, because we always talked about that lift. So feeling that lift up of your pelvic floor.
Not just tightening, but lifting up.
Not just tightening, but lifting up. And that is a really odd concept, actually, because I don't know if there's any other muscle that we contract in our body that we actually have to focus on the lift. But think about it. If you even So you're listening to this podcast. You can straighten out your leg, put your hand on your quad, which is the muscle that's right in the front of your thigh. If you squeeze it, like squeeze that and squeeze your glute, it's going to lift. So you'll actually feel a lift. And I don't know if you did that while we were talking, but yeah, it lifted up, right? Yeah. So it is actually the same concept. So you want that, the muscles that we have, and they're really small, which is why it's harder to get that, that big feel of, okay, I'm really pulling up, because those are small muscles. But that is actually what you want to feel: a squeeze and then a lift. And then we hold it depending on the times.
Right. I think it's important to remember that we're building a muscle, right? So you're going to start off smaller, just like if you were going to, do stronger weights and do bicep curls, right? So, things will start off feeling hard, get easier. You'll need to do longer, shorter, more, whatever. And at the same time, you don't just go work out, get in shape, and then you're done for the rest of your life.
Fabulous analogy. That is fabulous, because that is absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. And when we start learning how to do the Kegels, we don't learn how to do them in the hardest position either, standing. So even in the beginning of the program, you are not doing any standing Kegels, because it's discouraging, because it's hard. Even, I have good pelvic floor strength. Standing Kegels, it's not easy. It's not easy. But they have to be done, but they're not easy. So, yeah.
So we've talked a lot about bladder leakage, things like that, which is really the focus of this particular episode. But I can't talk to you and not also ask you about things like constipation, because it was really revealing to me working with you how, like, when we think of IBS, we think of diarrhea, we think of constipation, we think about gut health, and we think about the foods that we're eating and things like that. But there's actual, like, basic anatomy, muscle, like, that is involved as well. And so there's a lot of people listening who maybe have never made that connection.
Yeah, that actually is a big connection. That is something that is important to look at when you're looking at bladder health, is bowel health. So, and you heard me even say in this talk, I said rectum, uterus, bladder. They're all right there. They're interconnected. They're very interconnected. So if you have particularly constipation, because constipation is the one thing that really affects the bladder the most in a negative fashion. If you always are struggling to pass bowel, and pushing down, because that is the natural, it's uncomfortable, you're just trying to push down to try to get it out. That actually is one of the ways that you can prolapse your organs. And people who have had chronic constipation, because there's some people who have just had chronic constipation since even childhood, and it hasn't been truly addressed. Addressing constipation is extremely important, extremely important. You learn, number one, the connection, but you also learn different things that you can do in order to naturally try to relieve your constipation. Now, for some people, we always try everything naturally first. If it's very severe, then yes, there is medical and pharmaceutical intervention. But if it's something that you've had chronically, and say, for example, even there are things that haven't worked for you. I think even you and I have talked about foods and fiber and water and stomach massage. I mean, we talked about a lot of different things that would help with people who have chronic constipation. Even if you have abdominal discomfort, that actually needs to be addressed also, because that is going to affect, not so much, it'll affect your bladder, but so indirectly. What that will affect is your rectum, but they're so close. So you have to look at everything that affects your bladder can be also affecting your uterus. It can also be affecting your colon, your rectum. And your rectum is attached to your colon. You see, it's all interconnected. And there are times that it all then has to be looked at to see what can be normalized so that maybe we can change another problem. So the problem with bladder leaks, we can normalize the constipation and the bladder leaks can be lessened. There is a connection between all of that. The big connection, though, especially for women, with the constant constipation is the constant bearing down. That is such a problem. And there are people who come to us just for constipation, and we have to work on that because that will cause displacement of your organs, no matter how strong your Kegels, your pelvic floor is.
Right, because in many ways that's like you would do if you were giving birth, right? Like bearing down,
Every
pushing
day.
out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Every day. Maybe a couple times a day. Can you imagine? No. So yeah, that's actually the main consequence though with constipation.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. That was such an eye opener to me. I had not even thought about it like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And even abdominal discomfort and abdominal pain. A lot of that we try to address though and this is not in the coaching the program, but I'm just talking about in general because that's foods. That's a lot of different things that we kind of look at. Sometimes it's manual work. That's just for anybody who is really suffering from IBS, who maybe has had surgeries, who has scarring tissue. There are techniques that you can use to try to open up the area so that it feels better and so that your bladder bowel functions are a little easier for you.
Right.
So that's
right.
just an aside. Yeah.
So I'm sure there's a lot of people listening right now who felt like I did when you did a class for my coaches. Holy crap. I had no idea. And now I know I have a problem. Which was exactly where I was and why I decided to work with you. So obviously, that is an option for anybody listening. The cool thing is that you are able to do your work virtually for most things. So, for those of you listening, we will have links, a link to get on Dr. Whiteman's calendar if you want to schedule a consultation with her. We'll also have a link to where you can download her book, To Pee or Not to Pee. We'll have that. That website is being revamped, so I can't give you the link right now. But if you go to fibromyalgiapodcast.com/39 for today's episode, we'll have all those links out there and you can get them. So for the people who are listening who are like, okay, I know I have a problem now that can actually be fixed, not something that I'm just going to have to live with. What would their next steps be for starting to address this?
So the next steps, well, of course, the best step would be to work with me. To be able,
and I second that.
Yes, that is the best. To look in the notes, as Tami said, and get the information and contact me. And we can certainly just do a call to find out what's going on and if it is something that we could work together with. The other thing you could do, though, is you can always, especially if it's something that is really bothering you now and and you, for whatever reason, don't want to or can't do coaching, you can always go to pelvic floor physical therapy. Mm-hmm. So you can go to pelvic, I'm not discounting that because that's what I am. I'm a pelvic floor physical therapist. So you can go to physical therapy. You just have to find the right person
That was going to be my very next question. How do we make sure we get somebody who knows what they're doing?
Yes, that is the only thing, because pelvic floor physical therapy is really becoming very popular. When I first started, it was not, but it's very popular. Most therapists who are women they actually want to do this. There's a lot of them who are starting. I actually hate to say this, but they're starting without the classes.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, but they are. So, and you can understand, we all know how this works, yeah. So what you do have to ask questions. I know a lot of people are not comfortable doing that, but you do need to ask, number one, how long have you been doing this?
And specifically, you mean specifically not just how long have you been a physical therapist, but how long have you been doing pelvic floor work?
Right. Yeah. And yeah, how long have you been doing pelvic floor work? And and you can ask both the questions actually, because there's you really can, because I tell you, a lot of therapists say, I even say that to some of when I was in the clinic, I was like, how old are you? Look, you're like 2. So what? And actually they would go into clients' rooms and clients would be like, they would be, where's the other therapist? Where's the real therapist? So you can ask them both the questions if you wish, but you really want to know how long they've been doing pelvic floor physical therapy. And then you want to know, how many courses have they taken? How many courses, how many hours and days have they spent learning this?
Right. Not just working with people, but learning.
Right, because everything that we learn, we go to these classes, you're partner with someone, and you have to do that on each other. So all the internal work and all that kind of work, you know how it feels and you know how to do it. So and that's really, really important. I feel bad, especially when I hear so many stories of people will say to me, I went to pelvic floor therapy and it did nothing for me. And that's kind of because, they didn't probably have someone with enough experience.
Hmm. Are there any, like, if you're, so let's say you go out there and you Google a physical therapist near you who does pelvic floor work, are there any specific classes or certifications or things like that to look for? Or are there a lot of different ones?
There's a lot of different ones. And actually there's a board certification, American Association of APTA, American Physical Therapy Association. There's also a board certification through Herman and Wallace. You don't have to have that though. What you should find out is, usually there's levels though. So there's 3 levels, and then you've gone through all the levels. Then there's the extra courses that you take. So besides that, then you take a couple extra courses per year in order to get, there's literally a course on constipation. There's a course on abdominal work. There's a whole course on it, which I've taken. So you want to make sure really that they've been, and they don't have to, depending on what you've gone, because I don't want to discount the ones who are new. So if you're going for bladder leaks, that actually is class number 1. So yeah, but the thing is, you have to make sure that they've gone to some of the classes and have been mentored by another therapist. Because generally that's how, I was mentored. I've mentored all of the therapists that have come under me, because that's what makes you great, that you have the ability to go and ask someone. If they're a new therapist and they're there by themselves, who are they asking? Where are they getting their information from?
Yep. It's the same thing with our student coaches, being able to work underneath me and have somebody to go to when there's, coming up to a new problem, or somebody's not responding the way you thought they would to a particular thing.
Right. So it is the exact same scenario, because they're student coaches, but that doesn't mean that they can't coach.
Right. But they're new, so they haven't seen everything yet.
Yes. So that's why I never want to discount the newer therapists who, may have taken that first level course. They might be great, but they need someone still who has that experience. Everybody's not going to fit in the same category. They're just not. Somebody's always going to throw something extra at you.
Always.
They are. Yeah, they are. It's like, does anybody know? So we're on all of these boards, and of course, all of us still have friends that are pelvic therapists. They were like, I had this patient at XYZ. Have you had that experience? So you always still want to be able to learn, because you're never going to finish learning. Mm-hmm. Everybody's body's so different. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's a lot to ask them. You don't have to ask them all those questions, but you do want to get a feel of what kind of experience they have. And you also then, I just have to say this, it takes a little bit of time. If you've had your leakage for a long time, it takes time before you can sometimes see results, the beginning of results. It might take 4 to 6 weeks before something starts to click. So don't give up before then. If you're at 10 weeks and nothing, you probably need to switch therapists or go back to the doctor. There might be something else going on, because you should feel some progress by that time.
Perfect. I know right now with everything having been shut down with pandemic and everything else, there's a lot more people who are doing telehealth right now, but that there are also some things, particularly in physical therapy, where you need to get your hands on somebody, right? So for those people who are listening who might wonder, could they use your program? Do they need to find somebody in person? Can you give us some guidelines there?
I can. So if you have pain, I think it's best that you actually see someone, and I'll say someone who can put their hands on you, because even clinics are doing telehealth. So, a lot of people are doing telehealth.
So I'm going to pause right there. When you say pain, of course, everybody listening has fibromyalgia and they have pain, but I don't think that's exactly what you mean. So I'm going to ask you to be more specific.
I'm going to be more specific. So say, for example, you have a lot of abdominal pain.
Like where your stomach just hurts all the time?
Well, yes, that, or if you had, say, prolapse surgery and you still have pain.
Got it.
Or you have intercourse and you have pain. Or you exercise and then you just keep having pain. Some things like that. Even if coaching can actually help too with prolapse, but if you go to the physician and the physician gives you, say you have a 3-4 prolapse, you should go into the clinic. So the more significant or severe, not in your mind, because, hey, in my mind, if I drop a couple drops trying to go to the bathroom, it's severe. But that's not, that's not considered severe. But if you have a severe issue or complications, it would be best to go for hands-on. That doesn't mean you have to stay. It actually doesn't, because you can go, they can help you to get rid of the pain or whatever, get you to a level where you can actually then progress with coaching. But some things, that manual therapy, I'm a big proponent of manual therapy when it comes to pain and scarring and things like that. I wish I could manually move scar tissue and mobilize your organs over the computer.
I wish you could too.
I have not figured that out yet. And believe me, as therapists, we are working on it. But, I am one of the old school therapists that actually still, though, believes in, for some people, the power of touch for healing.
Yeah.
For pain.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's why I say there are some things that it would be best, to go into the clinic. Everything cannot be cured, and that's even your doctor. Everything can be cured from telemedicine. We love it because we can stay home. But some things you do need to go in and have someone actually touch you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And if somebody is out there thinking, well, I just don't know what I should do. Is mine severe? Is it not severe? A call with you would be good.
That's right. That's where the call would come in, is because we would discuss actually what you're feeling, what your problems, what your concerns are, and how long they've been going on. You can tell a lot from a conversation.
Especially when you've been doing things as long as you have, right?
Right, right, right. So yeah, so from our conversation, I can even tell you, oh, I don't know. I don't think so. Or, oh, yes, we can definitely work on that and you will feel so much better. So, yeah, a conversation would come in, even if you're not sure, even if you have some pain, but you don't know exactly. Like sometimes you just don't know what is going on with your body. And you don't, and from us having this conversation, now you're really like, I really don't know what's going on with me because she said a
Now I
couple of
know there's
things.
something going on, but
Yes, she said something, but I don't even know what. Somebody tell me. So even if you're there,
that's exactly, you guys, that is exactly where I was after she did the pelvic floor health class for my students and coaches. I was like, holy crap, I have a problem. What do I do now?
mhm, mhm, right, right. And then we had the conversation. I was like, oh no, this is something that is doable. That's the same principle with you. You know, if you have something, I'm not even sure. I think I have a problem because sometimes you don't even really know. But if you do have, a little bit of leakage, some kind of constipation, even if have abdominal issues and you want to discuss, we can discuss that. So we can have a talk. We can talk about what your issues are, and whether or not this coaching program will help you. And best believe, if I think you need to go to actual physical therapy, I'm going to tell you that. Yeah, I am going to tell you that because the only thing I want for you is to get better, to feel better. And it could be through me. I just want that to happen for you.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thank you so much. I know we're kind of at our time here. There's so much more we could talk about. I think that every time I talk to you. I'm like, oh, there's so much more. But we'll put a pin in it for today. And I hope that everybody listening really like I was telling Sheila before we got on here that the number one thing I wanted all of you to get out of this episode was that this isn't necessarily fibromyalgia. This isn't necessarily just getting older. This isn't normal, and this is fixable. So I hope you guys got that. And just remember, we will have all of her links. I know we didn't actually mention them out loud in this episode because a couple are still under development, but we will have those in the podcast episode show notes. So fibromyalgiapodcast.com/39. You'll be able to schedule a consultation, no charge for that, right?
No charge.
Okay, so you can schedule a free consultation. You can download her book for free, and hopefully that will like give you some first steps on your journey. And if you guys have further questions, if you want me to bring this lovely lady back and talk about some of those other things, we can definitely do that too. You guys just shoot me a message. If you go to fibromyalgiapodcast.com, you'll see Ask the Coach in the menu, and you can shoot me a message.
So
So
that would be fun.
yeah. So any last thoughts or comments or anything you want to say to the folks who are listening?
So I actually think that you summed it up very well because I was going to bring it back to because this is fibromyalgia. The word is going to come out eventually, coach, and maybe after I've gone to bed and woke up or whatever. But I do want you to still know you have fibromyalgia. That does not mean that everything that is going on with you that is causing you some angst is because fibromyalgia. Some of it might be. Okay, I'm not discounting that. But in the case of this, look into whether or not this is something that you have to live with. My guess is probably no. But It's something that you have to believe and something that you have to then say, I don't want to leak. I don't want to have constipation. I want to see, if even my abdominal issues can be helped.
Sleep through the night.
And you do know, and I'll just go back to this, has nothing to do with this topic, but you do know fibromyalgia, here we go, is helped tremendously by movement. I know you all know that, and exercise. That is really, really important. It doesn't have to be extreme exercise, but it does have to be movement. In the beginning, because I know there is going to be some of you listening to this that are not as active as you should be. So in the beginning, it is hard. It's not that comfortable to do, but you do a little bit every day. I was back treating fibromyalgia patients for fatigue because that's what the main issue actually was, and probably still is the fatigue. So I was treating people for fatigue, maybe about 15, it might even be longer than that. Like, fibromyalgia seems to be a I don't want to say newer condition, but a newer condition that there's talked about more widely.
Yes, yeah.
But it goes back a long time. It's just back in the day, people were just like, I don't know.
Nobody was talking about it. It still existed. We just weren't talking about it.
Right. I'm going to put it in this category because that's what I read in my medical book last week. So, but yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. But, come to find out, yes, it is real. It is real. And you have to move, you have to exercise, you have to do it slowly. That has nothing to do with our talk, but I really felt that it was very important for me to say, especially as a therapist, and especially because I know that it helps tremendously with the fatigue and with the ability to move.
I really appreciate you saying that, especially because I think one of the biggest frustrations of so many of us with fibromyalgia is we get a referral to a physical therapist and we go and they don't get it. So it always does my heart good to talk to you for so many reasons, but one of them being the fact that you actually do get it. For the people who are listening, who are curious on this, we actually did an episode talking about exercise back in episode 28. I interviewed a professional athlete, weightlifter, who has fibromyalgia, and you can find that at fibromyalgiapodcast.com/28. I'll have that link in today's show notes too. So, but yes, thanks for mentioning that, and also highlighting the fact that we got to go slow, we got to be gentle, we got to start there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You do. But yeah, you really do. Because of the fatigue level. You can set yourself back by doing too much. It's as weird as that sounds. And it's weird to, other people. It's not weird to you because you live it.
No, all of us listening are like, amen, sister.
Everybody's like, yeah, I don't know who she's talking to, but yeah. But in the general framework of exercise, it's not the way it's thought of. But for certain populations, it is different. That you build up to it and you steadily build up so that you can build up and the person is not fatigued, not getting sicker, because you can also get sicker and have more pain.
Yep. And speaking of that, just one last thought before we go. One of the things I was actually a little bit concerned about, but not too much because I knew you, was what kind of exercises might be involved in doing the pelvic floor work. And I just want everybody to know, super fibro friendly. There were maybe one or two that were like, wow, this is hard. But most everything was really quite easy. I mean, I liked that you picked things that were very effective. So I got a lot of bang for my buck.
Right. And I'm going to back up. I know you said we're out of time, and that's why because we can just keep talking. But I do actually want to say to you that, and this is why I want you all to think, yes, you have fibromyalgia, but don't put yourself in that category. So when you said the exercises, some of them were tough, these exercises, even though they were easy, they're tough for people who don't have any issues. Like people who don't have anything, who come straight, from outside, and I haven't done this. Oh my goodness, this is hard. And I'm, and of course I'm looking like, really? Yeah, but it is. It's hard for a lot of people to do the exercises. And the exercises, just like Tami said, they are really, they're simple, and they are really user-friendly. And I look at you while you're doing the exercises, and Tami, I'm gonna shut up though, for real. But I look at you while you're doing the exercises to make sure that you're doing them properly.
Yep. We did our coaching calls on Zoom, like we're doing this interview. Those of you who are watching the video, if you're listening, you can't see, but I pointed my camera to me on the floor doing my exercises.
And sitting. There were some sitting. They weren't all on the floor, but there were some sitting too. But yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So now
right. Oh my goodness. I'm definitely going to have to have you come back just because you're so much fun.
Oh, well, thank you. I really enjoy this. I really do.
Awesome. Well, everybody listening, thanks so much for being here. Remember, you can always go to fibromyalgiapodcast.com/39 for today's episode. Our next episode will be our next Ask the Coach. And I hopefully by then, because that's 2 weeks from now, I'll have some super exciting news to share for you. So I'm just going to leave you with a teaser. And remember, you can always go to fibromyalgiapodcast.com to ask the coach, to get copies of my books for free, and to listen to any of the past episodes. So I hope you guys have a fabulous couple of weeks until I'm back with you again. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
And that wraps up another episode of the Fibromyalgia Podcast. If you're ready to see if working with a fibromyalgia coach can help you feel better faster, visit fibromyalgiapodcast.com, where you can schedule a complimentary consultation to explore your options. During this call, we'll discuss your fibromyalgia journey, what your needs and challenges are, and give you recommendations on how to reach your goals the quickest way possible. Thank you for tuning in today, and join us next time as we explore more ways to help you take back control of your life and health. My music and sound editing were done by Daniel Munkus at Subtle Soup Records. Podcast management and creative copy by Sonia Louise of Performance Podcasting.